What's up, Alabama fans? It's Andrew Bone with BamaInsider.com. Hope you guys are doing well, staying safe out there. Pretty crazy time with the coronavirus and everything that's going on in the world. All the shutdowns, all the sporting events that have been canceled or postponed or suspended, or, whatever you want to call it. Um, Something that we've really never experienced. I guess most of us, never experienced in our lifetime something like this. So, we're in some unprecedented, uncharted territory right now. I mean, it's just, you don't know what to say. People, don't know what to do. Especially in the sporting world. What are people going to cover? And, for us at BamaInsider.com, we're going to continue, to cover Alabama football recruiting, Alabama sports, whether that's looking back on things that have happened in the past. We'll do some recruiting rewind stories. We'll interview top recruits who are you know interested in Alabama, that have Alabama among their top groups right now. Obviously, things are a little different for Alabama because spring was supposed to be a huge few months for the Crimson Tide as far as visitors are concerned. Alabama has only one commitment right now in Deontay Lawson, linebacker out of Mobile Christian. Only commitment after losing Drake May and Latrell McCutcheon, both who decommitted. Drake May flipped to North Carolina. Latrell McCutcheon, reopened his recruitment, but certainly looks like Oklahoma's in the driver's seat there for him at this time. Now, there was definitely some hope that Alabama would get a few more commitments, throughout the spring and kind of, heading into the summer with, 6, 7 commitments. Who knows what that number would have been, but as of right now, I don't know what that number is going to look like. There's a lot of guys that are, pretty much on hold. I mean, you look at, at least, 15 to 20 top guys in terms of not necessarily guys who had an offer and still needed to come to camp. These are guys who have an offer, can commit anytime they want. We're all coming through this spring, and not just Alabama. I mean, they were going to visit Alabama, Auburn, Georgia, Tennessee, whoever it may be. These guys were taking their visits throughout the spring, during their spring break, and really kind of enjoying that process, and then potentially making that decision this summer, making that decision before the start of the school season. Now, those guys are having to wait. Those guys are having to wait till the summer, or potentially even longer to make those visits. So it makes things extremely difficult, for Alabama, for all these other top programs and all these schools throughout the country. Now, there's some schools that are in pretty good shape in terms of their number of commitments. Whether you look at Clemson, who has 10 commitments. Ohio State, I think they have around 11 commitments. Florida, another school that has, I think they've got a high number, 14 commitments in this 2021 recruiting class. And so you look at Alabama's class, only one commitment. A couple weeks ago, I was saying, don't worry about that. Don't worry about it. It's tons of kids are coming in to visit this spring. Decisions are going to be made. And now a lot of those decisions are on hold. How long will they be on hold? We really don't know. So, what exactly is Alabama doing right now in terms of recruiting? Well, as of right now, that most of the coaches are on vacation because it is spring break. This was Alabama's spring break week, so they were all going on vacation and getting away from everything for a week before spring practice really kicked off. And they may be on vacation, but most of them are evaluating. Most of them are keeping in contact with top recruits. Whether that's through phone calls or text messages or talking to them on social media. A lot of that's still going on. That doesn't change. It's just the in-person contact, the in-person visits and stuff like that. That's the only thing that's really has changed and slowed things down as of right now. Um, you know, also gives Alabama an opportunity to evaluate a little bit more in terms of watching film, maybe on some guys that they have already offered. Maybe they have new film from their junior season that they haven't seen yet, so they get a chance to evaluate those guys a little bit further. Guys that don't have offers yet, they're getting a chance to really evaluate those guys throughout the country, and maybe we'll see some new offers get extended over the course of the next few months. Over the next month, you might see that a lot. Trying to hopefully get those guys on campus at least this summer. That's going to be the biggest thing. I just don't know if we're going to see really any recruiting visits. Obviously until at least April the 15th, but that could potentially go even further. We don't know how much further yet. Because it seems like every single day. Something gets canceled, something it gets extended. I think Alabama was thinking, they were going to continue. Probably, I would say last Wednesday, just from speaking to people, Alabama still expected everything to, continue to go on as usual. And then Thursday, it, took a turn where it was, all right, we're going to slow things down until, what was that, March the 29th or 30th? I can't remember exactly what date that was. And then all of a sudden it was April the 15th for the entire NCAA, and now it's April 15th right now, but you just never know what it may be like tomorrow, what it may be like a week from now. So for Alabama, they just have to continue to recruit, continue to evaluate, continue to speak to prospects as often as possible. And I think the biggest thing, a big win for them would be to get a commitment on board, not necessarily get 3 or 4 or 5 or 6. Just get a commitment. I think that would be some excitement for the coaching staff, for the Alabama fan base, to just get somebody on board, because it's been a slow recruiting start. We've seen 2 big decommitments. Well, Drake May was kind of, a lot of people expected, him to potentially go somewhere, but, with Latrell McCutcheon, you just, weren't really sure what was going to happen with him, but he decided to reopen, and, but as of now, I think, getting a commitment on board would be big for them. Looking ahead, I think the biggest thing is, like I said, evaluations. Trying to get these kids reset up for official visits, because there were some official visitors coming in town in April. I know the Brockemeyer brothers were coming in town, I believe early April. That's no longer happening, so they're going to have to move that. A lot of these guys are having to, they don't know when they can visit. That's the biggest thing right now is, you're talking to these different kids. We're reaching out to as many people as possible. Hey, are you in contact with Alabama? Are you going to visit Alabama? It's all yes, 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 but you just don't know when they're going to visit. They don't know when they're going to visit. So everything's really on hold, and it's just a kind of a really weird holding pattern right now for everybody. But speaking of just top players overall, I mean, we talked about Drake May decommitting. Alabama's still going to be going after a quarterback in this year's class. They've reached out to some top guys. Jalen Milroe, who's committed to Texas, had Alabama very high on his list last summer. Miller Moss out of California, another big time quarterback prospect that Alabama's been in touch with. There's some other guys that are out there, but I think the biggest thing with Alabama is just trying to get these guys back on campus. We're not going to see any quarterbacks commit to Alabama right now. It's all about evaluating, trying to get some guys to camp this summer if Alabama is able to have camps, and then kind of move forward and see what happens. I've been saying for a long time, one of the biggest positions of need this year, offensive line. They signed 3 offensive linemen in this past recruiting class, so there's some big time targets that are out there. We talked about the Brockemeyer brothers, Tommy and James. Tommy being a top 10 overall player in the country. James also being a highly rated 4-star recruit. Both those guys were supposed to come in early April for an official visit. That's on hold, obviously, and those 2 guys I feel like are Alabama leans. They may not say it, but as of right now, I think both of those guys, if they were to choose today, I think they would end up at Alabama. Marius Mims, big five-star offensive tackle out of Georgia, Terrence Ferguson, another big, big time player, Rivals 100. Another kid out of Georgia that Alabama's been recruiting very heavily for the last a long time. Not just the last few months, but several months. Tight end obviously big position to need this year. Hudson Wolf, number one tight end in the country out of Tennessee, big time target. Has already visited Alabama once this year. Attended a couple games this past fall. I think, in my opinion, I think it really ends up probably coming down to Alabama and Tennessee. Grew up a Tennessee fan, but has been to Tuscaloosa just so many times. I feel like those are probably going to be the two schools that are going to eventually, really fight it out for him. Wide receiver wise, big position of need this year once again. I think that there's definitely some big time targets out there like Deion Smith, who is over in Mississippi, Provine, Mississippi. He's committed to LSU, but has already taken a visit to Alabama. Definitely somebody that they like a lot. Brian Thomas out of Louisiana was up for junior day. Big kid, 6'4", about 190 pounds. Has been a major target for Alabama for a long time. Has visited Tuscaloosa several times. Even though he's in Louisiana, I think Alabama's got a great chance to land him. Alabama's done great in the state of Louisiana, and despite the success at LSU, I think Alabama's right there at the top for him. Mario Williams, Rivals 100 wide receiver, number 16 overall recruit in the Rivals 100. Definitely a major target. Just released his top 5. Alabama's in that group, so he's definitely somebody to keep a watch on. He was supposed to visit over during these upcoming weeks, but obviously as of right now, that is on hold for him. Then you look at some other guys that are out there on the defensive side of the ball. Defensive line, obviously, always a big priority for Alabama. There's definitely a lot of guys that are out there that they have high interest in, that they're trying to sign. Even in state, Tim Keenan, big defensive tackle, in-state defensive tackle. Now that's somebody that I could potentially see going ahead and making the decision. Now he's said several times that he wants to wait, that he's gonna wait until maybe closer to signing day, but he's taken just so many visits throughout the year, and even last year he's been recruited really since his freshman year. So he's made a lot of those trips and taken a lot of visits. So that's definitely somebody that we could see potentially making an early decision. Defensive back wise, I certainly see JaQuincy McKinstry, the number one player in the state of Alabama. See him making an early. I see him making an early decision, but he's being recruited in both sports, Alabama and basketball. I've got a lot of offers in football and basketball, Alabama and basketball, football and basketball. So, he may want to wait and take some additional visits, kind of figure out what he wants to do. But I think Alabama's in the driver's seat for him. Now, what we're going to do on BamaInsider.com over the course of the next few weeks is we're going to be, interviewing a lot of kids, talking to a lot of top prospects that are, interested in Alabama, have offers from Alabama, who visited Alabama. We're also going to break down each position. We're going to break down the top, quarterback targets, the top running back targets, which won't be many running back targets after signing 3 in 2020, but we'll break it down, every single position, the guys that they're really kind of focused on, at least right now. I mean, there's going to be more guys that are going to jump into the picture, that are going to get evaluated. They're going to move even above the guys that they're currently recruiting, guys that they haven't offered yet. That just happens every single year. There's a guy out there that does not have an offer, and even though there may be a 5-star recruit out there that Alabama's recruiting or all these other schools are recruiting, there's going to be a guy out there that surpasses those guys. We see it every single year. I can just throw out so many examples of guys that did not have an offer from Alabama heading into, let's say, the summer, before their senior year, and then all of a sudden they come to camp, they get evaluated, they become a top target for Alabama. We saw that last year, Demoy Kennedy. Saw it a few years ago, Quentin Williams. Amari Cooper, kind of the same way. And then you see some guys that potentially emerge after their senior season. Maybe they set out as a junior, maybe they were hurt as a junior. Evaluations are always ongoing. It never slows down, never stops. There's never a point where Alabama says, "All right, we're in this month. We can't recruit anybody else. We have this many targets, or this many commitments. We're no longer going to evaluate any other guys at this position because we're going to only focus on these players." That's just not true. It's not a fact. We've seen that with Eddie Jackson. Several years ago, he was a guy that was evaluated after his senior season and picked up an offer and moved ahead of some of the guys that Alabama had been recruiting for a year or two. So that stuff happens. You have to just expect it and know that it does. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Like I said, we're going to continue to work on BamaInsider.com every single day. Kyle and Tony, Tyler, those guys are, constantly doing stuff. So pay attention to them. We'll have a lot of stuff going on the recruiting board. Even though it may be a slow time. And we're also taking suggestions because this is, like I said, this is a situation where you don't know what's going to happen. This is a time where we've never experienced before. So we're going to be doing things that we didn't think we were going to be doing in terms of stuff that we're writing about, especially at this time of the year, because we're not writing about visits. We're not writing about kids coming in for officials or spring games or spring practices, stuff like that. Our coaches evaluating kids on the road. It's just a completely weird situation. So anyway, we're going to continue working. Come find us on BamaInsider.com. Love to have you over there. Join our community. Love to see you on the message boards. Talk to you. If you have any questions, please come over there and ask me. I'm on there all the time, and we'll continue to crank out content and hopefully get through this. Stay safe. Continue to wash your hands. Stay away from people. Stay away from large crowds at least. And hopefully we will see you all soon. Thanks.